Okay, there's one thing. This is hard to do without privacy. There's one thing I wanted to point out, and there's this musical group. I don't know if I should name them and like ruin their reputation. Bystone. There, everyone can deal with their own consequences. They didn't do anything wrong. I just noticed that like a lot of their songs are like female singers. Talking about love. And there's so many love songs these days. Like I scroll and scroll. That's what I find. And love is just like portrayed as this normal thing. And you know, men don't necessarily mean any harm by making these songs, because you could argue, you could say that, hey, this is a good thing because they're men and they're making feminine songs, and so they're comfortable with their masculinity. Okay, not quite. I mean, like, that's true. But if you're in a relationship with someone, you have so much control over them, especially if that person is a woman. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I will go into this topic more, extrapolate, whatever the fuck that means. I'm getting recommended these videos. Oh shit. Ooh. Like, there's not a lot of songs about hating your mom, there's not a lot of songs about not wanting to be in a relationship. There's so many love songs and so many heartbreak songs. And you know what? I realized it's not that deep. Like, you don't need to be in a relationship. You can interact with someone for like 10 minutes, and the idea that you with them long term is an illusion that was fed to you. And that's how they continue to control you, because they can make you insecure. And you make yourself pretty, you make your body attractive for them. But do you know what happens when you let the rope go? That's when you're free. And let's say you do experience a lot of romantic attraction, unlike me. You can acknowledge that his looks, his charm, and his sexiness, but that's not exactly love. And I do have to keep giving the credit to Therese for opening my eyes when it comes to this, because one love and you end it being controlled by them. And that's just not fair, you know. This makes it better or worse. You know, maybe I'll just keep that to myself. So much fiction is written by, it ends up being about so much fiction. And so the depiction of women in fiction is always with a man. You don't get a lot of women like fighting, getting dirt on their face, looking buff. It's way too much fiction of just women just like being an accessible man, like a bracelet. Oh, I still don't like my nose, which is a good thing. That means I can look at it and get angry again, and then by proxy get the person who broke it. Kim K. Oh shit. There. Arcane did it. Arcane is the reason why I want to be... They changed the way that I think. Like, the women in this show, like, they fight and they can do so many... And none of those things entail with a man. Look, they made it. They're not with a man. And I do think having an excessive amount of love songs in the music sphere is propaganda. But they don't know the facts. So you put on eyeliner, you buy female clothes, you're feminine, you don't have big muscles, maybe you do, okay. And then you're with a man. You live with... I was thinking about this last night. How do you live with a man? Like, you know, in the sense that I was thinking last night, you're with him, like, you're a man, then I'm outdoors, and I don't know him. My perspective seems radical, but it's only the truth. There's enough shows like this, and if the cinema was packed with shows like this, women would stop choosing to be with men, and they'd get strong and learn how to fight and do flips. This is cool too. And I remember watching that video of like the making of Arcane. And this guy called Christian Link, when you look up who's the executive producer, he's the guy who made An Alex, that guy. But he submitted the show to Netflix, and they rejected it, and they were like, oh, okay. And then they said, we're gonna get some female writers on the show. I think the reason why Arcane is dead, it taught people that everybody is human regardless of whether they are a quote-unquote villain or hero. And like the fighting, oof. Looks like a guy in Valorant. So, the people who, there's just one thing I'd like to say. All it took was, like, her mentioning the monogamous relationship. And she dropped that, and then a bit of time passed, and then I was on a walk, and on the way back home, I remember thinking, I'm gonna go from being the daughter of a mom who doesn't let me date to being with a man who doesn't let me date. And that's all it is. You're just a piece of property. Other people decide for you whether you date or don't. So, yeah, it was a combination of growing up Muslim and also hearing that snippet from Therese H. Lee and obviously consuming her feminist content. But it just clicked, and now I'm free. It's about ownership. And I feel like when a man interacts with a woman, there's a certain amount of power trip involved. Like, if I can pull this bitch, I'm a man. And it's nice to be on the receiving end of being treated like a lady, but it's a power trip, and I can't engage him in that. That's why the one solution to this is being gay, and I'm not. I'm stuck, like, being, like, 2%. Because I went through a trauma that damaged my to fall in love. It just hasn't been fixed. That trauma happened in 2023 and 2026. So, yeah. It's been like for a long time. Snippets of it here and there, but for the most part, I am somewhat dead inside. You know your emotions aren't gonna help you. That's another deep dive I have to get into. Have you ever thought of a place and then, like, had a bit of trouble figuring out whether it was from a dream or if it was real? Are those pictures TikTok cringe? I'm not lying. Oh, wow. Bezomorph. Emily Osment. Basically, in my opinion, how it should be is men and women interact in this big sphere where it is platonic. And if you find him appealing, you can, like, have human contact with him. But it's not like we're together, you know? That can't. because you're put inside this cage where you make yourself pretty, and then you worry about whether he's cheating. But if you're in an open relationship, anything can happen. And look, all it took was one woman on the internet saying, I'm in a non-monogamous relationship and I've been in it for 10 years, and it just, activated something in me that ensured that I'd never be controlled again, for the most part. So thanks to Reese Ashley, because I'd be still in that bitch if not for her. You should look up her YouTube channel. She's I was gonna say, I don't know why I was gonna say lesbian chat. They are. My brain is just spurting words. She's the feminist chat. Songs aren't really saying much these days. And they're centered around love. And if you decide to be on the chessboard of life, beauty is the main thing about you. But it doesn't have to be that way. Once you kill the fantasy of Prince Charming, or more accurately realize it never fucking existed to begin with, you can be free. You can be one of these women, strong, fighting, because nobody's gonna save you. I don't mean that in a mean way. It reaches a point when you're a woman when you realize nobody's on your side. Your mom treats you like garbage. Your father doesn't bat an eye. And an employee at the CVS just bullied you for no fucking reason after you came from the urgent care. Because, ooh. So stop groveling, stop simpering, and learn to fend for yourself. Not in a mean way. It's just a skill that you're gonna have to acquire. I'm gonna have to acquire it. It's an obvious fact that my nose was not an accident is by doing it physically. She's never gonna respond fucking common sense. Yeah, that was women's rights. The idea of being a cool and extorting information from people. I will not do that. I have no intention of hurting anybody or myself, just for the sake of